As we are all aware that the first SARS-CoV-2 infected case got reported from India on 30th of January 2020, and soon thereafter WHO declared it to be a pandemic and issued a statement wherein the world was supposed to curb the spread of virus at every given opportunity. So this was obviously an unprecedented strain on the healthcare system globally, and more so in a country like ours where we are overburdened and overstretched on any given day. SGPGI was no different. There were the services had to be suspended or scaled down considerably. Some of the few, like what Sir mentioned, some of the few services that were operating were carrying out the obstetrics, the dialysis, cancer treatment, emergency, and so on. And so the oncology care services that we offered, we decided to carry out a service evaluation of the treatment of the cancer patients that we could offer in the department during the first wave of COVID-19 pandemic. So actually cancer patients got hit both ways. They couldn't travel, there were travel restrictions, there were delays, and the diagnostic facilities were suspended. So the delays happened in diagnosis. They later on presented in advanced stages of presentation. And so that told on their outcomes, cancer-related outcomes. On the other side, it was increasingly clear from literature that possibly these patients are even more vulnerable to COVID infections, and possibly they were having more severe COVID infection and higher rate of mortality in a certain set of situations. As far as the implications for radiotherapy are concerned, radiotherapy has a peculiar issue that it's a protracted treatment. The patients have to stay in and around the whole hospital or locally for prolonged period of time. It could be 1 month, 2 months, or even more. Now, radiotherapy is also an essential component of the therapeutic armamentarium of the cancer treatment, and it needed to be continued at all costs during this pandemic. Surgery and chemotherapy, they were entailed higher infection rate comparatively, and so we expected that the tendency would be to replace or delay other treatments, surgery and chemotherapy, in favor of radiotherapy or other modalities which would be less, which would offer less exposure to infections. So with that in mind, we needed to adopt judicious, evidence-based, equi-efficacious, non-complex treatments, de-intensified measures for running these services. We had to prioritize patients. We had to adopt strict infection controls for uninterrupted services so that complete treatment could be offered in acceptable time frame, which is always of paramount importance in our case. We faced challenges during radiotherapy. Patients got infected with COVID-19, treating teams got infected, machines had to be disinfected at multiple time points. This happened, and there were short interruptions during that period of time. So what were the general precautions we took? The precautions that we took were no different from what other specialties had taken. A single point of entry into the department, triaging of patients, screens being placed, and we had to relocate, because our OPD services were running, we had to relocate our OPDs to within the department because the OPD block was closed. No more than one attendant was allowed even for very sick patients. And we tried to keep one machine on standby mode at all times. Palliative cancer care is an integral part of any radiation oncology facility in the country. Their mandate is that we need to counsel the patient time and again at different time points during the course of illness. We have to take care of the pain, symptoms, offer cancer-directed therapy, to the extent possible, and try to prepare the patient for eventual domiciliary care. We get to see sizable number of these advanced and terminally ill cancer patients in this clinic, and like what was expected, palliative care services got affected during pandemic, and we'll see how. EOPD that got introduced in the month of May 2020, it was a paradigm shift. Teleconsultations actually helped us to reach out and provide continuity of care to these patients to an extent. But of course, there were some possible pitfalls, like the possibility of missing out signs and symptoms of early recurrence. And then there was this issue that this kind of facility could be available to people who are tech savvy, who had the technical know-how and the requisite infrastructure. And of course, there was possibly a lot of exclusion in the sense that elderly and poorer sections of the society could not access to EOPD. However, I think it did prove to be a complementary strategy for follow-up and other consultation. So what we present is our service that we could provide, and we tried to quantify some of the delays, some of the disruptions. Not all were possible. We did try that. And we would also be presenting few cases to illustrate that how we changed our treatment strategy to suit the needs of these trying times. And we'll also talk about the social demographic profile of the patients who finally made it for treatment to SGPGI, and we'll present the data of a multicentric survey that was carried out in the department. So how did we capture this changing landscape during the first wave of COVID-19 pandemic? So we divided the year 2020 into 4 quarters of 3 months each, starting from, say, January to end of March and so on. And we took the reference as the last quarter of 2019, looked into the footfall, the changing patterns of demography, the paradigm shift in treatment delivery, be it radical treatment or palliative, the follow-ups and the EOPD part of it, and the social profile of the patients treated in this period that was studied as a part of the survey. So I now invite Dr. Anshika to present her data, and thereafter Dr. Nilesh will present some case capsules wherein we made necessary treatment modifications.
Today I will be discussing about the various variations which occur during the COVID pandemic. As we are looking towards the footfall, we used to get nearly about 200 cases per month in the initial years. And as we see, there is a drastic fall down of cases to near about 0 during lockdown. And as the unlocking started, there was increase in cases, and which started to rise to about 3/4 of its reference value in the later part of the year. Before going any further, I would like to discuss about the demographic as well as the referral pattern. As we have divided the different time zones, in initial part of the initial part of the year, we used to get nearly about 600 cases each quarter, which dropped down to nearly 1/6 during lockdown. And as the post-lockdown started, the cases rise to about 1/3, and which started to nearly 2/3 of its reference value. Now, when we look at the age and the gender pattern, it was nearly similar in all the time zones, with mean age of presentation being 49 years, and more than 50% of cases were from male gender. We also looked into the referral patterns of internal as well as community. And initially, we used to get nearly 2/3 of the cases from the internal referrals, and nearly 1/3 of the cases were coming from community or from another institutions. These patterns also remain similar in all the time zones. There has been substantial proportional difference in the sites when we look into the internal as well as community referrals, as is being seen in both the graphs. The above graph is showing us about the internal referrals, and the GI, that is the graph in blue, constitutes nearly 30% of the total workload in our department, which drastically dropped down during the lockdown and which started gradually increasing during the post-lockdown and the year end, but it never came to its original value. The another two most important sites that we get internally are breast and CNS, the bar in red and the green, and the similar pattern has been observed in the two. Now, if we look at the out referrals, the maximum number of cases which we get are of head and neck, the bar in the orange, and the similar pattern is being seen as compared to the internal referrals. The same has been depicted into this slide, and we see that there is a maximum fall of about 90% cases in GI, head and neck, and lung malignancies, whereas that of CNS and breast, it didn't fall to so much extent. Another point that I want to get into notice from this slide is that it is the breast services which recovered fastest during the last phase of the lockdown. Sorry for the interruption. Now, if we look at the percentage change in different treatment modalities, for the obvious reason, there was a drastic decline in all the services during the lockdown. But as the unlocking starts, there has been gradual increase in all the services. But at the end of the first wave, there has been sudden rise in services from radiotherapy and chemotherapy. Now, if we see this blue line, this represents the plateau of the surgical services, and possibly it is a reflection of the deployment of not only the surgical manpower, but also of the anesthesia department, OT staff that were being engaged in the COVID hospitals, and which made it difficult to run the surgical OTs. We also looked into the palliative care for advanced and terminally ill patients, and we found a different pattern as well. And bringing this patient to the hospital during the pandemic was very difficult. So proxy consultation with the attendant started increasing as post-lockdown started, and the telephonic consultation also gained the wider acceptance in our practice. Although we were not able to provide the various procedures even during the post-lockdown and end of the first wave, but we were able to provide pain and symptomatic management through the attendant visiting to us and through the telephonic consultations. Another service which we were able to provide is the availability of oral morphine to the larger duration of time to the attendant when he or she visited our hospital. When we look into the EOPD follow-up, which started in May 2020, it gained wider acceptance very early and is being continuing till date. And nearly about 17 to 20 calls we get daily on an average basis. And over and above, as I discussed before, there were palliative teleconsultations as well, and there were phone calls from our cancer registry as well as from the individual doctors. Now, if we compare the average daily calls versus in-person visit, since our OPD was being relocated to our department, we were able to see the outpatients even when the main OPD building was unoperational. And we see that EOPD follow-up continued to complement with our in-person follow-ups. Now, I would request Dr. Nilesh to please come forward and present few of the case capsules illustrating the different treatment modalities which we adopted in COVID pandemic. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So the modifications that we did during the COVID pandemic, these are some cases that I'm going to present. The first case is a treatment modification done in a case of carcinoma prostate. He is a 72-year-old male resident of Lakhimpur, diagnosed as stage 3B CT3N0, Gleason score 4+3, not fit for surgery with serum PSA of 30. NCCN risk stratification is high. He was referred to us in the pre-COVID time in January. So the standard of care for such a patient is neoadjuvant hormonal therapy for 1 to 3 months, which consists of injection leuprolide and tablet bicalutamide on an outpatient basis, followed by definitive radiotherapy of 76 grays in 38 fractions, 5 fractions per week in 7.5 weeks, which requires daily visit to the hospital for 7.5 weeks, followed by adjuvant hormonal therapy for up to 2 years, which is again given on outpatient basis. So once the patient was started on neoadjuvant hormonal therapy, the COVID pandemic struck and the lockdown happened. So the treatment was modified as the patients were not able to visit the hospital. We modified and extended the neoadjuvant hormonal therapy to 6 months. When the lockdown eased, the definitive radiotherapy was given to the patient and was followed by the adjuvant hormonal therapy. So the evidence for such a treatment modification comes from Denham et al., which shows that 6 months of neoadjuvant hormonal therapy is as effective as 3 months of neoadjuvant hormonal therapy. The second case is a treatment intensification done in carcinoma colon. He's a 60-year-old male diagnosed as carcinoma colon and underwent right hemicolectomy during the pre-COVID times, was staged as PT3N1M0 stage 3 with no adverse risk factors. The risk stratification is low and was referred to us in the COVID period in April 2020. The patient required adjuvant chemotherapy as there is a 5-year DFS increase and 6-year OS increase. So the standard of care for such a patient is adjuvant chemotherapy, Capox or FOLFOX for 3 weekly regimens for 4 to 8 cycles in 3 to 6 months. These are both intravenous regimens which requires IPD care and administration. Of these patients, 12% will have severe side effects like diarrhea, febrile neutropenia, and stomatitis, etc., which will further need inpatient care and admission. So to prevent, when in the COVID lockdown, when the patients are not able to come, the chemotherapy regimen was changed to a single agent tablet capecitabine from day 1 to 14, 3 weekly for 6 months, which can be given on an outpatient basis. It is easy to take and only a 5% patients will have side effects requiring IPD care. Most of the side effects are easily manageable at home and on teleconsultations. So the need for the switchover and the start of early chemotherapy is the evidence comes from the paper meta-analysis by Biagi et al., which states that each 4-week delay after 8 weeks of surgery results in a 14% decrease in relative decrease in OS. The third case is a shorter radiotherapy schedule in carcinoma breast. The patient is a 58-year-old female diagnosed case of carcinoma right breast, androgen progesterone receptor positive, received 4 cycles of chemotherapy followed by wide local excision and axillary lymph node dissection staged as YPT2N0M0, was referred to radiotherapy department in February 2020, and the benefit of giving adjuvant RT is decrease in local recurrence and improve in overall survival. So the standard of care for such a patient is radiotherapy to whole breast, 40 gray in 15 fractions in 3 weeks plus boost, 12.5 gray in 5 fractions in 1 week, which is given on an outpatient basis and requires daily visit to the hospital. So the effective duration of stay is 28 days and the total treatment is completed in 4 weeks. So when the lockdown period, the patients were not able to stay that long outside. So a shorter treatment schedule, hypofractionated radiotherapy, was considered, which consists of 26 gray in 5 fractions in 1 week, followed by boost, 12.5 gray in 5 fractions in 1 week. So the effective duration of stay was reduced to 14 days, just half. The evidence for such a regimen comes from the fast forward trial that got published earlier that year. Now I would request Dr. Neeraj sir to take over.
Thank you, Dr. Nilesh. Good morning. Since we have seen the patient has to face a lot of problems during coming and during the COVID pandemic because of the problem with the lockdown, loss, there's transport law, there was a problem in the wages loss. So to see this, we have done a multi-center observational study with the collaboration with Maulana Azad Medical College, Delhi, Government Medical College, Chandigarh, and SGPGI. So here we are presenting only the SGPGI data for last 7 months from the 1st April to 30th October. With aim of this study was to assess the impact of the COVID pandemic lockdown on the cancer care and financial distress which patient has faced. And this survey was done with the telephonic questionnaire. And what was to know the outcome in the interrupted cancer treatment in these patients. So the time of study was from 1st April 20 to 30th October, and new cases during that time was registered from the department is 533, and they're only available 480 cases because 10% of the cases which we have tried to find out them, they died of the COVID at their places. So the age of these patients, median age 49 years, male female 53% versus 47%, family members in the family was 5, and we have also tried to find out whether they're coming from the rural background or the urban. 45% from the rural background and 55% from the urban background. And the source of the income, because they also faced a lot of financial distress during that COVID. Government salary 26%, private salary was 16%, farmers were 28%, self-employed people is 26%, and laborers were 3%. Then we try to find out what was whether the patient is the earning member or the dependent on the earning member. 47% of the patient were the earning members and 52% are the dependent. Expense of the treatment, how they have self-funded. Majority of the patients have taken the treatment because of the self-arranging the finances, like 46%. Government reimbursement is 26%. And we also had a very nice scheme like the BPL, Ayushman, Kamdhenu Society Fund. So these have taken care of the 10% of the patient. And patient also had a lot number of patients have the self-finance along with the government schemes. So about 18%. We have tried to find the house where they are living. It is self-owned house is still 94%, very high, and rented accommodation is 6%. Localized disease, when patient represented to our department is 57%, metastatic disease 43%. There was also a time of from diagnosis treatment is usually 3 months. So what happened during the treatment in the lockdown? No treatment was taken in 3% of the cases, and they have treatment taken elsewhere because they were not able to reach to the SGPGI, and they have chosen some nearby centers for the cancer treatment, 17% of the patient, but all these patients which choose their centers or the treatment was delayed. 80% of the patients received the treatment to SGPGI, whether it's form of radiotherapy, whether it's form of chemotherapy. Money which they have spent before coming to the SGPGI, about 40,000, and direct cost of the treatment which happened in SGPGI, including the investigation, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy is 90,000, and indirect in cost of the treatment like travel from house to PGI, food, stay, everything costed about 30,000. So what was the reason of the delay of the treatment? In what type of treatment they have delayed? No treatment in usually 3%, no delay was 78%. When they come, most of the patient stayed near the SGPGI, and they are coming daily for the treatment for radiotherapy and 3 weekly for the chemotherapy. So there was no delay in 78%, delay in chemotherapy services because they have to arrange some finances as well, 6.5%, delay in radiotherapy is 8.5%, and delay in surgery was 4%. So what was the response at the end of the treatment? Disease was controlled in 54%, but disease was progressed because lot number of patients were the metastatic disease, and disease was progressed in 46%. Current status of these patients, no evidence of disease. This was analyzed in the month of September 2021, 46.7%, and alive with disease is 14%, and patient who died of the cancer is 39%. Significant number of patients, like 42% of the 42 patients, 8.7% have developed the COVID during the treatment, whether they are getting chemotherapy or radiotherapy. So we try to find out what was the disruption of the cancer facilities in this COVID time versus pre-COVID times. Non-COVID period was taken from 1st April to 30th October, and COVID time 1st April to 30th October 20. There were significant decrease in the reduction in the number of procedures which you do. We usually see new patients, follow patients, admissions in the ward. We give external beam radiation therapy to these patients. Before giving the external beam radiation therapy, we do the CT scan planning, and we do the simulator planning, and we do the brachytherapy, usually for the cases of cervix, and we also do chemotherapy. These are the services we are offering in our department. So this drastically decrease in all the services. New patients, there are 74% decrease, follow-up 70% decrease. But since we added the physical follow-up along with the e-follow-up, so e-follow-up really was very helpful to us. So if we add the e-follow-up, then the significant reduction becomes the only 45%. Otherwise, 70% decrease in the physical follow-up in these patients. Admissions, 60% decrease. External beam radiotherapy is 43% decrease. CT scan planning is 56% decrease. Planning by the simulator machines is 40%. Brachytherapy is 72% decrease, and chemotherapy services is 59%. When we try to see this, whether this decrease in our center or other centers, there's one study from the European Center. They have found 70% decrease in the cancer care facility in the Scotland. So there's another study, which is a cohort study that was done in National Cancer Grid of India. This was published in Lancet 2021. They have done a study of 51,000 patients. They have taken 41 centers across India and for the 3-month period. So what they have found all these services which we offer these patients, there was 23% to 54% decrease in the various services offered across the various centers in India. So, and our decrease in services is 43% to 74%. So we have significant decrease in the number of patients visiting to the SGPGI. So when we see these private centers, there's another study from the private center. They have taken Healthcare Global private 20 centers. They have done the study from March 20 to June 20. And what they have found, there's 55% decrease in the cases of new cases, as well as about 50% decrease in the services offered by the radiotherapy. So just to conclude, I want to say that 10% of the diagnosed patient died of the COVID before the start of any treatment. What we found that the COVID as a cancer as a pre-morbid condition these patients have a higher incidence of death rate, and few of the studies have shown 3 times increase in the death rate in the cancer patient versus the healthy population. And due to lockdown or non-availability of the public transport system and loss of wages in the COVID pandemic, 3% patients have not received any treatment, while 17% of the patients received definitive treatment, but they have incomplete treatment and they have significant delay in this treatment. Out of these patients, 85% died of the disease progression. So there was no significant delay in the patients treated with the radiotherapy or chemotherapy at SGPGI, but surgery was definitely delayed. These are the surgery patients or those patients which have given the definitive treatment initially or radiotherapy or chemotherapy, followed by they are sent for surgery. Because of the staff diversion from the OT to the other, and a lot of people also have diverted from the COVID care facilities. So 9 patients which have delayed in the treatment, they have not able to come because of the financial constraint, not because of the surgery problem. And 42 of the 480 patients, is 9% of the patient were on radiotherapy or chemotherapy, developed the COVID. But since they were coming to the hospital regularly, so they have got better facilities in the Rajdhani COVID hospital, and some of the people which have the less severe infection can be managed at home. And these patients, retreatment has started 2 to 3 months after the recovery of the COVID. So how the pandemic has affected the cancer care? So the capacity of the elective cancer surgery was drastically reduced, and the radiotherapy has a major role in the cancer as a curative treatment and palliative both, but inability of the patient to come regularly due to long fractionation schedule. So basis on these services, there's various nice UK guidelines, European Society guidelines, and American Society guidelines have prioritized the radiotherapy to only the rapidly proliferating tumor as hyperfractionated or short fraction radiotherapy, as Dr. Punita has already told, and neoadjuvant hormone therapy, which has been used in the prostate to delay the radiotherapy. And regarding the systemic chemotherapy leads to higher risk of infection and worse outcome if associated with COVID infection. So a lot of people which are less proliferative disease, less severe disease, we are giving the chemotherapy in form of oral capecitabine in the colon cancers, gefitinib in the lung cancers, and hormone therapy in the prostate as well as in the breast cancer. So ISMO, European Society of Medical Oncology, have prioritized this chemotherapy to only the hematological malignancies, and they also promoted the teleconsultation, which was very useful in our setup. So the cancer patients have been divided into the 3 risk categories: high risk, intermediate risk, and low risk. Oncological emergencies should be managed in the high risk with prioritize these treatment, and head neck cancers and highly proliferative tumors should be started chemotherapy like leukemias at the priority basis. And the intermediate risk, like the high risk cancer prostate, which you can delay the treatment, like Dr. Nilesh has explained, that carcinoma prostate and the breast, they can be started the treatment as hormonal therapy, and radiotherapy can be delayed. And the low proliferating tumors are slow growing tumors, this low risk, they can be deferred for radiotherapy, as well as cancer screening program should also be deferred during these COVID times. So the site-wise management algorithm which we have changed in our department, all precision and complex treatment has stopped. Concurrent chemoradiotherapy protocols have been discouraged, because when we give the 2 treatment at one time, like chemotherapy and radiotherapy, the chances of the iatrogenic side effect is quite high. So, and they requires admission. So we have stopped the concurrent chemoradiotherapy protocol. Either we have given chemotherapy or radiotherapy. Like in GI cancers, preference was given lot of in oral chemotherapy and short fractionation radiotherapy. 25 days of treatment as good as 25 days of treatment is, as has been shown in the rectal cancers. Lung cancers also oral targeted chemotherapy, short course chemotherapy, short course radiotherapy, and palliative radiotherapy also been preferred. In breast, hormone therapy was preferred, and short course of radiation therapy like 5 days or 6 days of the treatment was as good as the 3 weeks of the treatment. So, and brain, high grade tumors like glioblastoma grade 4, they require the high palliation. They have given short fractionation radiation therapy. And low grade tumors, usually the low grade glioma or maybe pituitary's tumor, we have delayed the radiation therapy. And head neck tumors, advanced tumors, we have preferred the high palliation by giving the short fraction radiotherapy or metronomic chemotherapy, which is less toxic and patient can take at home. And post-operative, we have given either radiotherapy or chemotherapy alone. Most of the time radiotherapy, and no concurrent chemotherapy has been offered in these patients. And prostate, use of the long-term hormone therapy is as good as starting the radiotherapy before. So just the summary of the measures which we have used during the COVID in the radiotherapy department. Cancer treatment and OPD services we have never stopped, but we have reorganized proper cancer care. And we have also made a core COVID action group in radiotherapy, and we have restricted the relatives and the friends of the patient during hospital visit. And the one important thing which we have done, we have 2 linear accelerators. We have used only 1 linear accelerator service at one time, because if any COVID patients comes and linear accelerator is affected, so we have sanitized this linear accelerator, and we have to stop for a certain time, like a 1 day. So we switched over the other patients which are non-COVID to other linear accelerators. And weekly COVID testing was mandatory for the patients as well as relatives. And hypofractionation or short course radiotherapy, 5 days of radiotherapy versus the 3 weeks or 5 weeks of radiotherapy was used for rectum, prostate, and breast and lung cancers. And palliative radiation therapy, usually the single fraction radiotherapy is as good as multiple fractionation. So we preferred during COVID time single fraction radiotherapy, and priority was given to the less myelosuppressive chemotherapy, and oral chemotherapy is deferred. And when there is only marginal benefit with the chemotherapy, we have deferred the chemotherapy. And teleconsultation we have used very widely, and teleconsultation is a substitute, not a substitute, but is a complementary for the routine follow. So the lessons we have learned from the first wave, we have continued the cancer care treatment in these patients. We have never stopped our services, but we have simplified our services, and complex treatment we have not done. We have only simplified either the single agent oral chemotherapy, or we have given the concurrent. We have stopped the concurrent. We have given either chemotherapy or radiotherapy as a solitary modality. And we have given the short fractionation treatment time, and which has found to equiefficacious to long treatment time. And we have also given the not complex treatment. So ease of administration in these patients for radiation staff as well as chemotherapy staff. And palliation, we have the standardized mechanism of morphine supply, because a lot of patients unable to come, because the palliative patients requires a lot of support system to fetch the patient, bring the patient to the hospital. We have made a policy to deliver this morphine to the doorstep. And take home message for this, there is no comparison of the level of preparedness, because to mitigate the effect of pandemic, it is as sudden as a bolt from the blue on our head. So, and services were significantly impacted, and quantifiable and non-quantifiable delay at multiple levels because of the patient not able to reach, a machine got infected, and so lots of wedges in the patient. So there are a lot of delays because of the multiple levels. And we have done the guidelines based modification for the management of each site of the patient, and the gaps and unmet needs of the cancer patient is beyond our scope. So we wish to acknowledge the work which has been done by our various supportive people, like the hospital-based cancer registry staff. Lot of data they have collected. We have and Department of Biostatics, School of Telemedicine, which really is helpful to us for the teleconsultation, and Department of Pathology, Radiodiagnosis, and Nuclear Medicine, and Surgical disciplines, which the patient which has come, they have able to operate even few cases. And we also like to thank the our principal collaborators like Maulana Azad Medical College for collecting the data and the Government Medical College Chandigarh. Thank you for patient hearing.